With practice and qualifying in the books, Brian and I are here to get you set for Bristol, baby. We're going under the lights. We're talking DFS. We're talking updating the betting card, post practice and qualifying, and getting you set for an awesome night race.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, it is Saturday morning, thanks to the sports books. We were not able to record last night despite waiting and waiting and waiting. And then about 10 o'clock, they finally started getting outrights out. We're like, all right, we'll punt to the morning. So it is now morning. We have all the lines that we need. Our goal is to record this, get this up for you guys, and then hopefully you can catch it before the night race. Luckily, we have lots of time in the day. But Brian Twining, before we dive into everything Bristol, how's everything going this morning?
It's going great, man. I am so happy to be sitting on that Denny Hamlin 8-1 outright, as he absolutely came out on a ball of fire, looked great in practice, and for my money was the best car in practice. When you look at the fall off, or actually lack thereof, on his car during the long run, and then he goes out and he puts it on the front row, and it basically really like solidified my belief that betting Hamlin 8-1 was probably the better call than taking Christopher Bell at 8.5, because yes, Bell is on a pole for the record-setting third consecutive time here in the first round of the playoffs, but we've all seen what that's amounted to: absolutely nothing.
Yeah, so I can't wait to run back the notes from iFantasy Race, because I'm going to sound like a broken record from last week, but I'm very excited to take advantage of that. Great call on Denny. I was watching the lines when they popped last night. He popped about 5.5. All of a sudden he was down to 4.5 to 1.
Yep.
So we'll see what it looks like today. And yeah, Christopher Bell, like even last week when, so I mentioned this last week, Christopher Bell has won the pole had won the pole in 4 races prior to last week. Average finish was 24.5 or 24.25. His best result was 13th at Michigan. Obviously last week he got 9th, I believe. But yeah, he's barely a top 10 car. Even if you add in the 9th, his average is probably in the teens. I'm gonna be pretty happy to fade him this week until it burns me, and we'll go from there. I did want to mention before we jump into everything, we have a lot of news floating around. Daniel Hemrick is jumping in the 31 car with colleague. There's a 5 p.m. announcement with Trackhouse and a 5 p.m. announcement with Zane Smith. So we'll see what the information is, but it really sounds like Trackhouse is running a 3rd car next year, likely with Zane Smith, maybe some SVG mixed in for the road courses. We'll see what they confirm at the press conference. And Brian, Bristol Dirt is dead, or at least,
thank goodness,
at least for the moment. I thought my kind of thinking is it would make for a really fun like all-star race, or like one-off, but not necessarily part of the season series, even though so many of these guys really were dirt guys, and they really got it to a point where it was a lot more enjoyable, but it was interesting to see. I also saw per Garage Guys Chase that sounds like Chicagoland is back in the potential rotation for 2025, so we'll see. I think there's going to be some schedule updates. I know they've talked about doing some stuff with Auto Club, potentially Auto Club going away. So we'll see what they do. We'll see how they adjust the schedule, but all a bunch of stuff just to be aware of as we move through the end of the playoffs and into silly season.
Yeah, I'm very happy that they got rid of the Bristol Dirt Race. I mean, you would think that for people that are kind of new to the sport, and in our case, it would be pretty cool to see them run on dirt. But quite honestly, from a betting perspective, there was so much uncertainty with that type of thing. Like, it's not fun to bet on a race where none of these guys have been running, or at least the majority of them, for, a decade plus, because once you get to the top level of NASCAR. Like they're running on concrete or asphalt. Like they're not running on freaking dirt and
Yeah,
having
we're
to
looking
drift
at
in the
like
corners.
Eldora races from 10 years ago to try and get some sort of idea of who can run on dirt.
Yeah, so I'm happy they're getting rid of that. It'll be I'm sad that we don't have another Southern California event. I mean, the Coliseum, like I don't know if that becomes a points race, that's going to be really disappointing because
Yeah, well,
that is like that's not
I think
racing.
that
That's like
much like
go
the
kart.
dirt race is going to be kind of a one-off, like fun race, not really for points.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It would be interesting to see. But yeah, so we'll talk DraftKings, we'll talk updated betting odds, and we'll get everybody's thoughts on everything. Brian, you ready to build a DraftKings lineup?
Let's do it, baby.
All right, let me share my screen here. So Kyle Larson, 11,500 starting 36th.
He's going to be
Denny's.
90+% rostered.
So that's we'll have to see because in
Fade.
theory,
Fade.
absolutely. My question is, and it'll obviously be contest specific. He's 11.5.
That's steep.
That's pricey. So yes, you can build lots of lineups with him in it, but you have to be willing to go to the bottom too and get pretty gross.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what kind of lineup we can put together. So we're going to build at least one with him, and then we can build one without him and see how we feel. We also have Denny Hamlin starting second at 11.2, Chris Bell 10.8, Kyle Busch starting 15th 10.5, Byron starting third at 10.2, and Chase Elliott rounds out the 10K range. Obviously, Larson has the ability to still win this race. Very popular. Should be really, really competitive. Beyond him, we have some potential dominators. You already said, how much you like Denny Hamlin. The books are agreeing with you. Beyond those two, Christopher Bell, William Byron, Chase Elliott, any interest there, and or Kyle Busch as kind of a mid-pack guy starting 15th?
Well, first of all, I'm just going to start this off with that Denny Hamlin has the best car this weekend, and it's going to be a mistake by him that costs him the win or some sort of strategy call. That's just I'm repeating what I said earlier in the week that actually came to fruition. That said, when you look at lap times during practice, when you look at fall off, when you look at overall speed, if you want a dominator that's fading the Toyotas, I think you got to go to William Byron because he had similar lap averages as Denny Hamlin. Now he only ran up to 20 lap run, which was actually a little bit faster than Denny, but his incremental drop-offs were actually larger than Denny's. And if you go look at the numbers, Hamlin's car must be like just perfect setup. And he's already on record as saying like he loves his car this weekend, which is scary. Yeah. But I think Byron is a guy who, because he hasn't won yet in the playoffs, he's already in the top of the board. Like, what better way to close out the first round than to just remind everybody I am the championship favorite and go out there and lead a ton of laps and wind up taking the victory here at the Bristol night race.
And he was the fastest in Group B by a pretty substantial margin. Faster than Bell, faster than Elliott, faster than LaJoie and Dinger and Logano of Group A. He was also, like, despite Larson was obviously the fastest in 5 lap, but he had substantial fall off. He was 9th and 10, 10th and 15, and 8th and 20. So once they ran more than a few laps, he was cooked. Where Byron got faster. He went 5th, 3rd, 2nd, 2nd. So Byron, I
definitely think that maybe Hendrick was trying a few different setups,
sure.
And then they were trying to look at which one was the best for the long run or like race trim and all that. And obviously Larson's going to make an adjustment, and there's no team better than the 5 team in terms of making adjustments like that, after practice and qualifying. That said, too, starting at the rear of the field at a track as short as this, if there's any problems of him getting through the slow cars early, I know he's fast, but unless he's aggressive early, which could present some contact, which could present the possibility of crashing, there is a possibility that he winds up getting lapped because he's stuck behind the slow guys.
And he's going to be back there with the chuckleheads, and he's going to have issues getting forward, and he's going to be dealing with nonsense. It's not
Yeah.
like he's running 12th with some of the best drivers, and he's able to move forward easily. The 9K range is interesting. We obviously have Brad Keselowski starting in the 6th. Kevin Harvick starting 21st. Christopher Buescher 9,300. And Joey Logano starting 28th at 9K.
Looks like poop.
He looks not great, but starting 28th, he's kind of in that Larson bucket where he has to move forward quickly to make a strong day, but he's somebody that could move forward, become, a top 10-ish car and have a nice day.
Yeah, but I mean, Logano's never really been that good here. I mean, he has 0 top 10s in the last 5 runs.
Yeah.
His car looked like shit. You could tell he was pretty disappointed in the setup. And he's fairly secure in his spot to advance, so I don't think they're going to be getting too risky in here. It's just going to be maintaining position, making sure he doesn't wreck out, that kind of stuff. So I'd avoid him. I mean, look, Kevin Harvick, I liked him pre-practice and qualifying. I'm kind of disappointed in the performance he saw because his car looks slow as shit. But he is currently on the outside looking in or close to it. He needs a really good run here. And I think if anybody's going to be a little bit riskier to try to get playoff points and all that kind of stuff, I think Harvick's a guy that could pop. And then Chris Buescher, of course, this is the spot he won from last year, and RFK brought some speed yet again. And I don't put too much into the single lap speed because this is going to be a long run track.
Yeah, it's interesting because Buescher was second in Group A and second overall in 5 and 10. Didn't run beyond there. His teammate Brad K was really slow in practice, but obviously was able to correct that in qualifying. So clearly they had one car set up for a long run and one car set up for the qualifying run. But yeah, Buescher looked better, like just overall. So that's really interesting, especially given where he's starting. We talked about Logano, who's obviously $300 cheaper and starting 8 spots back, but Buescher was just better. So like going to Buescher and maybe fading a little bit of ownership might be the move.
Yeah, it's just like the Penske issues this season are a little scary, and RFK is clearly
so rock solid.
They are the Hendrick of the Fords, essentially.
Yeah. What about your boy Blaney? Or as we round into the 10K or the 8K range, starting 11th, we have Truex starting as a top 5 despite looking like trash in practice. Chastain, Reddick, and Bubba Wallace. This is an interesting range. Where are you going? Are you in on Blaney starting 11th?
I mean, he looked okay in qualifying. Like he wasn't great. His lap times in practice, he only ran, I think it was a 15 lap run, and that was like 15.6. So that's a little scary because and he had like a full 10th of drop off from 10 to 15. And if that continues, I mean, you're looking at a mid-packed car. So starting 11th, that's a little scary. I do think, this is a broken record here, but Tyler Reddick starting 12th, he had decent lap times when you look at the lap averages. And we saw Denny, Christopher Bell, Ty Gibbs, Bubba Wallace, who both of those guys, shortly below him, starting better than him. All of those guys have really good cars, a lot of speed, a lot of long run speed. And I think Reddick is somebody to keep your eye on in terms of starting a little bit further back out of the top 10 that could potentially find his way towards the front and steal a win or something here.
Yeah, obviously got the win last week. He's been incredible. Speed has not been his issue. It's been keeping it together for 3 stages and being able to have a chance at the end to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like all those shouts. Fading Trackhouse yet again. No interest in Chastain.
Yeah.
I'm not trusting Truex as a dominator. I'm happy to be holding the ticket I'm holding, but didn't even really get that much value on it, to be honest. And his practice speeds were underwhelming at best, despite qualifying 5th. Obviously, I still think he can have a solid race, but I just think there's so many better options at other prices that it's hard for me to get to him at 8,700 starting fifth.
Okay, before we leave Truex, so just hearing your sentiment on that right there, as somebody who's holding a pre-practice and qualifying outright, I do think there's a legit possibility people are completely avoiding him based on the practice times and the fact that he hasn't been great here. But when you go a little bit further back in his career, he actually had decent runs at this track, and having track position, he's going to be someone that's difficult to pass as well. As long as he can keep it up there,
Yeah.
I think he's somebody that could surprise and maybe a pivot move if you're in GPP or something like that as a potential, dominator starting inside the top 5.
Yeah. And if you want to go with, a Larson and you want to go with a Kyle Busch or a Kevin Harvick, you're going to have to find your dominator down lower. So I don't hate that thinking. I think he makes some sense there for sure.
Yeah.
The 7K, we have Ty Gibbs, Alex Bowman starting 13th, Eric Jones, Daniel Suarez, and Reki Spinouts himself. Kind of a gross range, not really a lot of appealing there, but is there anyone you're thinking about getting to?
He gets us pre-practice and qualifying. He's fast. He brings a great car. He's got a lot of long run speed. We saw it again, but I just cannot trust the rookie to keep it up there for the duration of the race. And I would love to use him because I do think that he's got the car to do it. It's just whether or not he can keep it up there. The guy in this range that I'm looking at is probably, this is extremely gross because his past finishes here absolutely suck. That's Ricky Stenhouse Jr. His practice numbers look pretty good.
Yeah.
Like,
and he's
long
been
run
a
speed is
lot
there.
more rock solid this year than I think anyone wants to give him credit for.
Yeah,
Top 20 in total speed rankings over basically traditional concrete tracks. He's been, I think he was the one that I was looking at, seeing if I could convince myself to go there, because I think he might be worth our time.
I mean, obviously, I think Eric Jones is somebody to consider as well, just because he does have a good history here, but we didn't see anything out of practice. Like he didn't do any sort of long runs, short runs. Maybe they were using Carson Hocevar to see, they were playing with the setups, which Hocevar's numbers weren't terrible. They both look decently fast, but I think he's going to be much more popular than Stenhouse based on their past results.
Yeah, I think that's a good call, but I think they both make sense. It's just if we're talking about Larson getting caught up in the shit, Eric Jones is born in it. He's ready to roll. So like if anyone wants to find some nonsense, him and Reki Spinouts could definitely find each other.
Yeah.
The SHR guys lead off the 6K range. Almirola 26, Chase Briscoe 14th. And then we get to Michael McDowell, AJ Allmendinger, Ryan Preece, Austin Dillon, and the aforementioned Carson Hocevar. Another range that doesn't give you a lot to be super excited about. But I think there's a couple names that could make some sense.
Yeah. Obviously we're getting down to the bottom of the barrel when we're getting down here, but I do think that, Ryan Preece, he's good at these tracks. At the 17th position, like the starting position, that's a little worrisome because in terms of just overall driver and car, like he's probably not a 17th place car in any week to week event. But if he can maintain and potentially, crack a top 15, I think you're getting decent value there. And then, I love it just from a pure risk factor, but Carson Hocevar, dude, he is great in anything he's been in this year. When he's running the Cup Series, he's looked really good until obviously the car takes a dump. But
that's why it's funny to me that like Daniel Hemrick and Zane Smith and all these guys are getting shots over him, where he looks really good, and when he gets in a car that's actually good, he looks really good.
Exactly.
So I don't know. I think he deserves a shot, but he's probably a year or two away.
Yeah.
Let's round out the rest of the field. We have Justin Haley, Austin Cindric, who's been an absolute disappointment this year. He's been so underwhelming. Harrison Burton, Corey LaJoy, top tenner.
Definitely not in any lineup starting 10th.
No.
Come on.
Gilliland, JJ Yaley, Ty Dillon, and BJ McLeod. Anything?
Nope. I have nothing for any of these dudes. Like
Gilliland, I always seem to convince myself is better than his starting position, but I don't know. He's been
his like long run speed is just not there. He looks like absolute dumpster fire.
Like at the Glen, you got a 46 burger out of him. That's pretty nice, but he's kind of like a 15 to 20. Let's see, high point 400. I don't know.
Yeah, I
feel like you need some nonsense to happen. So
that's all I can say is nope.
Let's build a lineup. We'll start with a Larson lineup, and then we'll build one without him and see what we can do and see which one we like better. So Larson, 11-5 in the lineup, starting 36th. With that being said, we need a dominator. We need some other guys. Anybody that you want to pound the table for.
We're going to avoid the Yodas, and we're going to put in Byron.
Okay. Byron dominates. Larson, Byron at the end. I could get behind that for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I think maybe this is where we go down to Jones or Spinhouse.
Yep.
Save some salary.
Honestly, I might put both of the chuckleheads in.
Oh, no.
Stenhouse, Eric Jones. Let's see where that gets us. Oh yeah, see, we're still gonna have to keep diving. I'm gonna do this, and that gets us 8,600, and then we can get Chastain, Reddick.
I feel like the best play in this range. Oh, you know what? It's kind of scary, sketchy, but Alex Bowman.
Yeah.
7,600.
We just need basically Bowman to be right there. I don't know. He's terrifying.
I think he can compete for a top 10.
Can he compete for a top 5? Can he get some fast laps?
I don't know about that. I think Reddick can. So that's probably the play then.
Yeah, Reddick's definitely the answer there.
The only thing I worry about with Reddick, and I'm pretty sure Wormy talked about this on the NASCAR betting preview show and somebody else, but the fact that he already won, like how aggressive are they going to be to move up to try to win? Like obviously they want to win every single race they can, but
well, I think that's good for this lineup though. I think he'll be a good top 5, maybe top 3 car, but not necessarily push Larson and or Byron out of the way to
get the win.
Yeah, so if we get like a Byron win from dominance, and then we have Larson maybe gets a top 5 or 7, and maybe even better, and then we get Reddick right there too. That'd be a nice run. Plus, those guys could all be really fast. Like when Byron's coming in for pits, maybe Reddick runs a few fast laps and then comes back out. Like, I don't know. I think that's the move.
All right. I'm liking this.
Now we're going to create a lineup. We're going to go to NASCAR and continue. All right.
Oh, baby.
So who do you want in your lineup? You could put anybody in there.
Well, I'm going to pick the guy that I picked to win the race. He has the best car, Denny Hamlin. Like, I don't think there's a question who, if you remove all of the variants of wrecks and just weirdness that happens during NASCAR races, if we went based on what we saw in practice, just having the best car, I think Denny wins this running away. This would be like a Martin Truex Jr. at Sonoma situation.
Yeah, which would be the guy you need if we get one of those.
Yeah, because I think he could legitimately go out there and jump out front of Bell after about 10 to 15 laps, because I think Bell's probably faster on the short run, and then lead 150 to 200 laps tonight.
And I'm guessing we won't be able to make anything if we do this.
Oh my gosh. No way.
We have to live down in this range.
Yeah, that would be sketchy. I'm just so worried about Larson starting at the back and having to work through the field of knuckleheads.
Mm-hmm. What about Old Harv starting
All right, I like
21st.
that. We could do a lineup of olds.
Oh, baby. Squad up with the olds.
Oh, does that mean you're going to put Brad Keselowski there too?
I was looking at it. I like Christopher Buescher at 93. I think better.
Yeah.
Do we want to go
I
second dominator with Truex?
yeah, I was going to talk about that when we were building that last lineup. Like, it is important to note that when you look at the type of runs here, like, starting within the top 13, 15 cars is normally the range of guys that wind up finishing inside the top 10. Last year was a bit of an anomaly, but you need guys starting more near the front to do that, and also playoff drivers in particular for this event. I think 2 years ago it was the top 7 finishers were all playoff drivers, and 8 of the top 10 were playoff drivers. So I think, like, you really got to try to cherry pick guys with good value in the playoffs, which it's gross, but like a guy like Stenhouse who is playing for a good finish because he needs a shitload of points or a win.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to have to push it for sure. Is there anybody? Ty Dillon? Can I convince you?
No. He's gonna be like 5 laps down within the first
Harrison
20.
Burton? I'm just looking for a really cheap guy that we don't hate.
Yeah, let me hold on.
And I don't want to go all in on Gillen because that seems like a disaster. Austin Dillon?
I mean, I don't hate Austin Dillon. I think that's a decent
Top 20-ish starting position.
for 6,100. I think that's
That gives us a
playable.
little more flexibility. I like that. All right. I guess let's figure out the low end before we go to the high end so we can figure out how high we can get.
All right, let me.
Briscoe, Suarez, Bowman the Slowman, Tyler Reddick.
Bowman the Slowman.
Basically, I'm trying to figure out a way to get Joey Logano into this lineup.
Of course you are.
No, Christopher Buescher at 93, and that gets us to Almirola or Briscoe if you're comfortable there. Otherwise, we can
The only
punt
thing
on
about
him.
Briscoe is where he's starting. Like, can
Yeah.
you rely on him to stay up there?
I feel like he's kind of a good option to like kind of be where he is though. Like, I don't know. But I understand where your head's at. But the other option is if we don't go there, we go with a couple guys in this 8 range. I mean, we could do
Like, for instance, Briscoe started
Truex and
second last
Reddick.
year and finished 14th. So, I mean, we're looking at a 26th place finish if we continues that fall off.
Eric Jones? Or is that another?
Yeah.
All right, let's see what that does.
Oh, man. So we're going to have both Spenhouse and
No. That seems like a risky situation. And then
hey,
Truex.
that's how you win. Oh, man. Look, again, I think there's a potential that Truex, because he showed speed in qualifying, like, they make a few adjustments and boom, this dude is up there all day.
Yeah. No, I don't hate it. All right. This is what I'm going to go with.
And also, too, like, I think there is definitely something to be said about having a teammate up there that is secure in his spot. So say we're running 1-2, Hamlin and Truex. Are we going to get the F1 call like, hey, Denny, we need you to pull over for Truex?
Give it to me,
here.
baby. The call is coming from inside the house. Joe Gibbs on the line saying, please,
yeah, seriously.
Please. All right. Betting card. Truex, 16-1. Truex top 10, minus 125. Briscoe top 10, which actually is looking pretty good, Brian. Plus 350.
Yeah.
Larson top 5, Truex top Toyota, Briscoe over Suarez, Busher over Chastain, and over 2.5 Toyotas in the top 10. Brian, I am ecstatic. This is the most excited I've
Oh my
been about
God.
my pre-practice and qualifying car in a long time, which you know what that means.
It's not going to work out
Goose
well for you,
Egg
my friend.
City is coming my way. Let's go. You're obviously on Denny at 8-1, which is a great number. Harvick top 10 minus 135, great number. Briscoe top 10, yeah, there's no way that works out if we're both on it. Harvick
No.
top 5 plus 220, I like that.
Yeah.
Briscoe over Suarez and Busher over Chastain. Fade Trackhouse. Odds. Actually, no. Sorry. Okay, we are sitting here. Let me scroll over. Boom. Boom. All right. I'm guessing PointsBet isn't up to date because that doesn't seem right. I'll just do one of these. Bear with me while I tech lord this. Perfect. Hamlin 4-1. FanDuel is not up to date either, I'm guessing. So we'll ignore FanDuel. It's only Saturday morning of a Saturday race, but why would they have odds up? Who knows? You're definitely muted, Brian. Brian, you're on mute. Brian, you're on mute. Brian, can you hear me? You're muted. I cannot hear you. No. What happened?
There we go. I pushed the button with my chin, apparently. This is what happens when you wake up.
This is what happens when we record at
record.
8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. This is silly season. All right.
Yeah. So I was just saying, Denny is 4-1. Bell and Larson are 6-1, and
On FanDuel?
Byron is 6.5-1 at FanDuel.
Okay. So we'll ignore the FanDuel odds here. Brian can fill us in if there's a good number there. So Hamlin 4.5. Larson still like 5.5, 6. The pole sitter Christopher Bell 6 or 7. William Byron 7. Brad K 8.5. I guess that's inside the 10-1. If you're stepping to the window, is it Denny Hamlin or bust at this point?
I don't think you could bet the 4-1 number at a track that has what are we running, 500 laps or something? Like any race that has that number of laps, regardless of the type of track it is, there's too much shit that can happen. I almost feel as if
live bet.
Christopher Bell and William Byron to me are the best values here because Bell's number didn't move very much, and Byron, he didn't move very much at either. But both of them have plenty of speed, and yeah, Bell's burned us in the past. But the fact that you only lost a point after he put it on pole again, I don't hate going there.
No, I think that's a good call. I think Byron would be my favorite, but Denny is interesting. Obviously, if he jumps out to the front and starts running away from the field, you could probably bet him at 3-1. But there might be a better live betting opportunity in race that you can actually get to.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
just
add
hard
Byron
to
on the outright card.
4-1.
What's Byron at FanDuel?
6.5.
All right, so I should go with DK 7.5.
So you're adding him too. And I apologize if you can hear my dog. He's in there howling at the fact that I'm going to
he doesn't
smash
like that call at all.
Florida State, Boston College first half total over, by the way.
It's already over?
Oh, no. It's about to be 14 points with 6 minutes to go in the first quarter.
Oh. Yeah, it's going over. Yeah. I think Denny is probably the bet, but you really want to wait till live and make sure that you can try and get the better number at 4-1. Not touching Larson. You think we get a better number on Larson given where he's starting. Maybe he runs back there for a little bit, and then we get closer to like 8 or 9-1.
Well, so I think he's not going to get any shorter like maybe he goes to 4-1 if he works his way to the front, and then that's when you fire on it, because there's too much that has to happen in order for him to get anywhere near a win. So I would just wait. And you run into the possibility, like, say there's an early shitstorm and he winds up going a lap down, like then you're going to get double digits on him.
Yeah.
So I would wait. He's unbettable and outright right
maybe
now.
there's like a early caution. He ends up staying out and ends up in the near the top 10. Then you bet him at 3.5 or 4-1, and
Yeah.
at least you know he's in the race at that point and he's not 36th.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why he's unbettable at his number where he's
Next
starting.
range, Chase Elliott, who I've kind of thought about a little bit more than I really want to admit. Martin Truex, you can still get 10, 12. He's fine. Brian is a little more optimistic than I am at this point, which I think is interesting. Like I said, I don't, based on what we saw in practice, I don't love it. But he is really good. He is starting 5th. I just always worry about qualifying warriors that out-qualify what they look like during practice, because I feel like those guys often fall back a little bit more than they should. But Truex is interesting at double digits. Obviously, not really a track he's been tremendously successful at, but he is a very different car, much faster this year. So I think he makes sense. Buescher 14, 16 is apparently 18 at Bet Rivers, which is shouts to them. Kyle Busch 18, Tyler Reddick 15, and he's like as long as 20 apparently. Kevin Harvick, same idea. Like any of those guys in kind of that like high teens area tickling your fancy?
I mean, Tyler Reddick,
Back to back. Could he be this year's? We were talking about Christopher Bell with Wormy. We did our little preview. Like, if there's somebody who's going to rattle off a few wins, Reddick does feel like somebody who could easily do that, given he should have probably had more wins coming into the playoffs, but because of one thing or another, didn't rack them up. Maybe he gets his wins now and is all of a sudden in the Final Four and looking really good.
Yeah, and I definitely think that there's a little bit of the fact that he's already clinched baked into his number, which is making it a little bit longer, because there is a lot of uncertainty as to what type of strategy they're gonna unveil here.
Yeah, well, and it's weird because like you could tell me that they're locked into the next round, they're not going to push it. You could also tell me, they're locked in the round, they're going to try everything they possibly can to win this race. And I think they both make sense. So figuring out how to play that is really, really interesting.
Yeah. So on that note, I am adding Reddick at 20. That number's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, even 18, I think, is pretty silly. Love Harvick this week. I just don't know that I love him to win. But this is a spot for a guy who wants to get through the next round, has to push. So we'll see. Ty Gibbs, Ryan Blaney, Ross Chastain, Bubba. Like, there's nobody down here that I'm willing to throw an outright ticket on. I think we reached the.
What is Bubba's number? 30? It's too short.
Yeah.
Because I do think that Bubba is a driver this weekend that, because of where they are in the current standings, they could definitely put everything on the line and go for the win.
Yeah, especially after the last couple weeks. What would be your number? Would you have to get a 4 in the front of it to consider it, or a 5?
Yeah, I'd prefer the 40 market.
Yeah, so if you can find 40 or better, feel free to fire, but 30 is pretty rough. Now, if he comes out and looks amazing in stage 1, you can get a 13 on him or something. That might be worthwhile at that point. I know it's not 30, but it is a lot more compelling. You can bet one of Ross Chastain, Christopher Bell, or Chris Buescher to win the race at 4-1.
That's crappy.
Yeah.
That's so crappy.
All right, top 10s. Denny Hamlin -600, max bet, go.
That's ridiculous.
Kyle Larson minus 240. Byron minus 240. Truex minus 140. So even though, yeah, it feels pretty good. Chase minus 140. Blaney.
Dude,
What? Holler.
Tyler Reddick? What is he on there?
Minus
Yeah.
120.
Why is he minus 120?
That's a great question. I feel like I need to bet that.
So he's minus 112 at Bet River. So
Yeah, that's going on the card.
I'm going there. I don't.
Especially after what you said about like where you start matters.
Yeah. Ooh. All right. I found another one.
Holler.
Ricky Spinhouse, 3-1, top 10, DK.
Yeah, don't hate it.
Hit it.
Don't hate it.
And just by the way, I had told Kyle prior to this that my betting card was going to be very, very
Yeah,
streamlined.
no, very limited, and I laughed in your face. It was really, really funny when you said that. I was like, "Oh, you're a jokester." Almirola 4.5 to 1.
No, he's gonna wreck. Look,
What the
he's gonna wreck somehow. That's just we already know how that works out.
What about Austin Dillon? Starting
I
top
don't
20.
hate that.
It reset. Hold on. It was like 5 to 1.
Kyle broke.
Yeah, I tried to do like 100 things at one time and short circuited there for a second. Yeah, plus 550.
I was just gonna say, so going back to I keep trying to call him Spinhouse. When going back to the Ricky Stenhouse, Eric Jones conversation in terms of both of those guys' potential, I also like Eric Jones to potentially top 10, but the worry more for him is that because he's starting 7 spots further back in 31st, it's going to be much more difficult for him to work his way through the field and avoid being one of those guys that's lapped during stage 1.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to go back and look at
Tyler Reddick is plus 265 for a top 5. I don't hate that.
Dude,
255 for Chris Buescher.
Discounted?
I still don't think he gets the respect he deserves basically for not winning those races.
Well, the thing that I don't understand, okay, hear me out here. Why are they essentially downgrading Reddick because he's locked into the next round while they're still pinning Kyle Larson as one of the favorites, who is also secure in the next round because
Kyle Larson gets a crap ton of money and no one bets on Tyler Reddick?
Like it.
My guess is they got a bunch of pre-qualifying and practice money on Kyle Larson because his number was short, and now they're limiting their exposure.
Yeah, probably.
Tyler Reddick plus 550 to be top Toyota. I know Denny has been incredible. Let me frame it this way: is there anyone at these numbers that you would consider for top Toyota besides Denny, or would you consider Denny a plus 140?
Ooh, plus 140. Wow.
If you think he's a rocket ship and going to be in the conversation, and the only people that might pass him are like Fords or potentially like Byron.
Well, I think considering the fact that Larson is starting in the back of the field, William Byron, I think, is the first legit non-Toyota contender in the top 5. I mean, you definitely mitigate some risk, but I almost feel like the top Toyota has a really good chance of winning.
Uh-huh.
So I would almost rather go to the outright market, and the same could be said for me looking at Reddick's number.
I think if you're in on Reddick or Truex or even Christopher Bell, his number is a little bit shorter. I think adding a top Toyota bet as a supplement is not a bad move. I was on Truex plus 420. Now he's 560. I kind of like that. I like that a lot better than like a top 5 or a top 3 bet.
Well, okay. Tyler Reddick to top 3 is plus 425.
Yeah, because then Denny could still dominate the race and he could still
Denny
top
and Christopher Bell can stay on the front. So I like that number much better than going to the top Toyota market because he could finish. There are 2 Toyotas that looked better than him, and the entire garage is fast. I mean, we're not even talking about Ty Gibbs here, who also has a freaking rocket this weekend.
Yeah. And Truex, who could be right there too.
It is interesting to note that on the same book, Caesars, that has Reddick as a shorter odds to top Toyota than Martin Truex Jr. Truex has shorter odds to top 5 than Red Dog. That's
interesting. That shows you where the money comes in different markets. So you always want to price it accordingly and find the best value.
Yeah, I like looking at that stuff to find the discrepancies to see like which side
arbitrage shopping.
Yep.
All right, let's go back here. Let's go down. Top Chevy. I think there's value now down here. Top Chevy, obviously Larson, but Byron's plus 185. And then like Chase at 4-1, Kyle Busch at 5.5 to 1. I don't know that I trust these jamokes, but like Ricky Stenhouse at 28 to 1.
I don't know about that, man.
Yeah, that's a number.
I know he's got long run speed, but
that's a number.
I do think that there's something to be said for past history here. Maybe he doesn't have the car, but Kyle Busch is in the same mold as Joey Logano to where they can make some ridiculous call at the end. Oh, let's just not take tires and start 10 spots ahead of somebody with only 2 laps to go, because those 2 laps is not going to matter, So I do think that he could squeak out a top Chevy or something of that nature.
Yeah. Especially if you don't believe in Byron and you don't think Larson gets all the way to the front. I still think there's a ton of value with Buescher and Harvick if it's top Ford. Hell, even Briscoe at 20 to 1.
No, don't do it.
So much fun.
It's gross.
Yeah, it's disgusting. That's why I love it.
All right, I'm doing it, I guess. All right. Reddick top 5 is being added from Bet Rivers, by the way, at
I like it.
265. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. He's probably going to drop to the back because he's setting up for the next round already. Like, yeah, I'm going to be hurt.
Byron over Chris Bell at minus 110. Welcome to the card.
Ooh, that's a good matchup.
Almirola plus 105 versus Eric Jones, I think, is really interesting.
Ooh, you could bet Byron over Hamlin plus 110.
Yeah, Larson plus 125 over Denny.
Is that still a thing here?
Truex is minus 140 against Buescher. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
You can get plus 110 on Chris Buescher.
Damn it. Like, okay, so there's one I saw in action. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. over Michael McDowell plus 105. But McDowell's starting position, I mean, it's 16 spots higher.
You can get Bubba plus 108 against Joey Logano. You might want to double check that, but FanDuel. Brad
They
K.
don't have matchups. All they have is groups. Of course.
That's why.
Yeah, FanDuel stinks. BetMGM has it at -110 for Bubba.
Yeah. DraftKings says Brad K over Christopher Bell at a +100. I'm adding that. I may
Has
end up.
what?
What's that?
Chris Kozlowski, Christopher Bell, huh?
Yeah. Told you I'm fading Christopher Bell. Maybe I'll hate myself for doing it, but I think it makes sense.
Ooh, hold on. I think.
Would you, if you're fading Denny in matchups, would you either go to Byron or Larson?
I'd much rather go to
110.
Byron. Look at that. You get almost the same price for the guy that's starting right behind him as you do somebody starting at the very back of the field.
Yeah.
Look, as good as Larson is, there's no way, no effing way he is that much better than William Byron. All right. I'm doing it. I am no risk it, no biscuit here. Where did I see this? Ryan Blaney over Kyle Busch at DK +115.
I like that. What about -103 versus Kevin Harvick?
Oh, man. I don't know because Blaney still has to race for better positioning.
Do I fade AACE with Truex? That is the question.
I don't know, man, because I think Elliott's going to be good. I don't think he's going to push for a win, but I do think he'll be good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I know. That's why that top 10 number was really enticing. All right, what other stuff do you want to add to your card since you're not adding any more stuff?
I'm shopping. I'm shopping. Hold on.
I'm definitely not adding that much more to the card, I promise. As I add
Race to
100
go
more.
to overtime. Oh, it's only +150? Yeah, that's a no.
Oh, can we go look? I want to see if I got value on this bet. Probably didn't, but let's see. Number of Toyotas in the top 10. Over 2.5 that I bet was at a +100 is now -150.
That's an awesome bet. And something else I just found, again, arbitrage shopping. If you like Kyle Larson to win the race at Caesars, he's +575. Why bet that when you can go bet the grid position of the winner at 30+ at 675?
Bingo,
Boom.
bingo, bongo. Look at you.
Yeah, it's that kind of stuff that I don't think the books either they don't think about it or they do it purposely because they know that they're going to get more money on the driver.
Yeah, it's all like the thing is like we combine all this stuff together in our mind and we understand like this also means this, which also means this. But in the books market, they're like, here's a market, here's a market, here's a market, here's a market. Money in, money out, move it around, adjust accordingly. They don't go,
Yeah.
oh, how can I adjust this to fix that? Like they don't care. They just like, okay, here's a bet on Larson. Let's adjust Larson's number. They don't know, oh, here comes the third. Because the other thing is they'll take what 100K or whatever the fuck they take on Larson to win the race. I guarantee you they take a fraction of that on the 30 to that position.
Yeah, that 30+. Yeah.
So that's how that
right.
the money in, money out thing. That's kind of like it never really logically makes sense, but that's how they see it and that's how they bet it and adjust accordingly.
Man, there's this like
Brian is so excited to fire on the card, even though he's like, I'm not adding that much. I'm not that excited.
There's a handful of guys that I love. Like, okay, so I'm going to tell you the 3 guys that I like the most this weekend. I mean, I've talked about them all. I got outrights on them all.
Denny Hamlin, Tyler
Reddick,
and Kevin Harvick,
William Byron.
William Byron.
Look, I think this is the spot. And we've done this all season. Even when we kind of glance over him, we come to realize on race day, like, oh shit, this dude is good.
It's race day, Brian. Let's say oh shit and let's win some money.
Yeah, so I'm trying to look at how else I can get exposed to old number 24 here. And I think I want to go to that top Chevy market.
Top 5, 105. Top 3, 210.
Let's go manufacturer, top Chevy. So you can get Byron at plus 250 top Chevy at Bet Rivers.
I don't hate that.
Yeah, I don't hate that, but I want to. And then what is his? Yeah, because his top 3 is only plus 200. Yeah, I'm going to hit that. Of course, I'm going with all the guys that are completely secure in their playoff standing. So none of them are actually going to race today, by the way. So.
But I think it's interesting that that you can get like I think it's a good strategy for not if you're not going with outrights for guys that are secure. I think that's a little safer. Martin Truex is 2-1 to top 5 on a boost.
Yeah.
And Chase Elliott is 4.5 to 1 to be top Chevy on a boost. Although I feel like those are old. Let's see. Top 5.
I loved Harvick coming into the weekend, but his practice numbers scared me.
Yeah, I still think he's going to be rock solid. He's going to be like 7th.
Yeah, he didn't run a ton of laps, so that does give me a little bit of confidence that he realized something and went, oh, you know what? I need to make an adjustment.
I for people like him at tracks like this, I trust him to make the right adjustment and be fine. He's done this enough.
Yeah, so let me go back and see. So he's minus 110 at a top 10. All right, I'm going to go back to that since I smashed that earlier in the week. No, I'm going to stick. I'm done.
Are you?
Closing it out.
Promise?
I think so.
Okay, let's review the card. Let's give the people our best bet, and let's get the hell out of here. So Truex, 16-1. You can still get him as low as 12. Fine with that. Top 10, minus 125. It's like minus 140. Fine with that. Briscoe to top 10, plus 350. Happy with to have that. Larson top 5. Truex top Toyota. You can get a much better number now. Briscoe over Suarez. Busher over Chastain. Over 2.5 Toyotas. I'm probably my bet of the century of the week. Added today, William Byron outright 7.5 to 1. Tyler Reddick to top 10, minus 112. Austin Dillon to top 10, plus 550 on a small bet. Byron over Bell, Brad K over Bell, and Denny over Bell. Because we're fading out of Christopher Bell. Brian, Twining, Hamlin, Harvick top 10, Briscoe top 10, Harvick top 5, Briscoe over Suarez, and Busher over Chastain, adding Byron on the outright market, adding Reddick on the outright market. Reddick top 10, Spinhouse top 10, Reddick top 5, Blaney over Kyle Busch, and Byron to be your top Chevy. Brian, Twining, as we sit here Saturday morning, what is your best bet as Bristol goes under the lights? Because it's Bristol, baby.
Well, he won last week, and apparently I've fallen in love with him all over again. That's going to be a Tyler Reddick top 10 at minus 112.
I love it.
Thank you, Sportsbooks, for giving me the bet that is going to cost me my entire bankroll for the weekend. Yeah, I don't understand how he doesn't crack the top 10 here and stay there. There's no reason for him not to race for playoff points still, so this is getting smashed.
Denny is a rocket ship. I've been looking to get exposure to him. I couldn't figure out how. I figured out how. Denny is over Christopher Bell. They're both minus 114. I am putting 5 units. I'm sorry if you have a Denny outright ticket. He is definitely not making it to the end of the race. You're welcome. Denny over Christopher Bell, 5 units. I still love Truex to top 10. I love a lot of stuff on my card, so I'm sure it's going to go awful, but I cannot wait. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy Bristol under the lights. We will be back next week to recap all the carnage and get you set for the round of 12, I think.
Round of 12. Yes. I think we're going to Texas.
We're going Texas, baby. Let's go. Brian Twining, Kyle Robert. We'll talk to you next time.